Why is it taking so long to decide whether to expel a Chinese diplomat?
I think, as you know, this is a serious and significant question. It's a question of moving forward in a way that represents our values and ensures that we're enforcing our laws. This is a decision not to be taken lightly.
That was the Prime Minister speaking to reporters this past weekend. Hi, welcome to About That. I'm Lauren Bird, in for Andrew Chang. The Prime Minister has been asked repeatedly to expel a Chinese diplomat in light of reports that China targeted a member of Parliament and his family. That MP, Conservative member Michael Chong, had a tense exchange with Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly at a parliamentary committee last week.
Minister, when did you first find out that a PRC diplomat was targeting me and my family?
I've learned it through the news.
Why is this diplomat still here?
So I knew you would be asking me this question because it's a valid question. You know, as Foreign Minister, I take this extremely seriously. You've asked me questions regarding foreign interference in the past. I've always said that, of course, we would never tolerate any. And second, we would make sure that, you know, if there was any violation of the Vienna Convention, we would take action.
Minister, Article 9 of the Vienna Convention is clear. I will
just, if I can.
I've heard your answer. It's
no, but I'm not finished.
Well, why is this diplomat still here? Article 9 of the Vienna Convention is clear. Article 9 says that the government can declare a diplomat persona non grata for no reason. The article is clear. So why is this diplomat still here? A diplomat who has more rights and immunities than the Canadians around this table to go around and conduct his foreign interference threat activities. He has diplomatic immunity. He cannot be criminally prosecuted. You have given accreditation to a diplomat here who is using his diplomatic immunity to target not just me and my family, but other members of Parliament. So why do you, Minister, continue to allow this diplomat to be accredited in this country on Canadian soil? That is the question. And you haven't answered the question.
Well, let me be able to answer the question. And of course, Michael, I understand your frustration and I understand your anger. So
we haven't expelled a single PRC diplomat.
Can I just
We are
finish?
one of the only democratic allies in the NATO alliance that has not expelled a single PRC diplomat. And Canadians are being targeted by the over 100 diplomats accredited here.
Will you allow the minister to
Okay, thank
respond?
you. So, first and foremost, what we're doing right now as a government is we're assessing the consequences that we'll be facing in case of diplomatic expulsion, because there will be consequences. I think it's important that Canadians know what we've learned from the two Michael experience is that, of course, China and the PRC will take action.
Minister, I can't think of any interest.
And therefore, no,
Minister,
Michael, I just want to finish my answer because this is very important. It's about you, but it's about also the interests of the country. So, as we are assessing the interest, and I know that we are under pressure to go fast, we need to make sure as well that we protect our democracy. And that is why we will take action in light of the facts that are being presented regarding your case and, you know, any MP that could be targeted. So that's why my deputy minister right now is meeting with the Chinese ambassador and summoning him. And that's why also we're assessing different options, including the expulsion of diplomats, because it is important that we take a decision.
It is inexplicable that this diplomat hasn't been told to leave the country already. And I would hope that the deputy minister is informing the ambassador that this individual, Mr. Wei Zhou, should be on the first plane out or declared persona non grata. And I think that that is the only course of action here, because if we do not take that course of action, Minister, we are basically putting up a giant billboard for all authoritarian states around the world that says we are open for foreign interference threat activities on Canadian soil, targeting Canadian citizens, and you can conduct these activities with zero consequences. And that's why this individual needs to be sent packing.
Okay, there's a lot going on there. And China maintains that its diplomatic and consular personnel in Canada always abide by relevant international conventions and perform their duties in accordance with the law. But it also added that the Chinese side will take necessary measures to firmly safeguard its own interests. So all of this got us wondering, just how difficult is it to kick out a diplomat? If we're speaking in legal terms, it's not that difficult. It's actually a pretty straightforward process.
According to the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, a receiving country does not need to provide the sending country with any rationale about why it is declaring a diplomat persona non grata.
The Vienna Convention, that's the international law that governs diplomats, and the one that says they get immunity from their host country's criminal laws. But it also says that host country, so in this case Canada, can revoke diplomatic status without explanation. In other words, a diplomat can actually be, as Michael Chong put it, sent packing. And the legal side is just one part of it.
It is purely a political decision. It is one where a state needs to decide what the potential consequences are of declaring a person persona non grata and expelling that diplomat.
So the big political consideration here, Canada's relationship with China right now. It's fraught and complicated. That's why the government keeps saying this.
This is a big step, not a small step, to expel diplomats. It's one that has to be taken with due consideration on all the potential impacts and all the very clear messages that it will send.
So what could happen if Canada expels diplomats?
The first consequence is that it is virtually assured that there will be a reciprocal, at the very least, a reciprocal expulsion of Canadian diplomats from that country. The PRC will undoubtedly expel an equal, if not greater, number of Canadian diplomats.
So this is a big deal because there are a lot of Canadians living or working in China right now. In 2019, there were more than 8,500 Canadians in China, according to Global Affairs. Diplomats provide consular services to those people abroad. And those services were key when Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor were imprisoned in China.
As we have seen with the two Michaels, the People's Republic of China is not shy in terms of using hostage diplomacy as a tool for retribution for things that it doesn't like. So the consequences might be quite significant.
In 2021, after the Michaels returned to Canada, Global Affairs Canada said that 115 Canadians were still imprisoned in China. And then there's also the matter of China being one of Canada's major trading partners.
China is an important market. It's also an important source of goods for Canadians. So one of the things that the PRC does quite regularly is that it will make selling Canadian goods more difficult. It will limit contracts. It will impose various barriers to the free flow of goods and services between our countries.
So those are just some of the considerations the government would be weighing in its decision on whether or not to expel Chinese diplomats. But there are also consequences if Canada doesn't respond to interference from the Chinese state.
What's at stake is ongoing harassment, intimidation of our citizens. What's at stake is the ongoing interference in our democratic institutions. What's at stake is the perception that Canada is a permissive environment for hostile state activity, where people who undertake that kind of intimidation and harassment, who are here under the protection of diplomatic visas, will be able to continue to do that work with impunity.
And not sending the diplomats home sends a message too.
I think that it sends particularly, again, horrible messages, both to foreign states who are undertaking this kind of activity. So foreign states like the People's Republic of China, like the Islamic Republic of Iran, like the Russian Federation, and others. And it sends a terrible message to Canadians who are victims of this intimidation that the government is not standing up for them.
So there's a lot to consider because either way, the consequences are substantial. And the process to expel these diplomats could already be moving. Minister Jolie mentioned that her deputy minister met with the Chinese ambassador. And that could be one of the first steps to expulsion.